Mythic Plus can be a pretty overwhelming game mode to get into if you've never played it before. So if you've never played and would like to try it out but you're not sure where to start, then this video is for you. Hey guys, I'm Mezzy and today we'll be going over the basics. I'll put chapter timestamps in the description in case you're looking for information on a specific subject. Mythic Plus is a system that allows you to play dungeons on infinitely increasing difficulties. When you have a full group and you have a mythic keystone, you can head into the dungeon of that specific key. But that means you do need to get a key first. If you've never done any mythic dungeons before, you need to do a dungeon on mythic difficulty. A dungeon on mythic difficulty without a key is usually referred to as a mythic 0 dungeon. At the end of the dungeon, you'll then loot a key for one of the dungeons that's in the current season's Mythic Plus dungeon pool. Alternatively, if you have done a key before at some point in the expansion but haven't for a long time, you can skip doing a mythic 0 by talking to Lindormi in the capital city of the current expansion. If you tell her that you've misplaced your keystone, she'll then give you a new one. Before we move on into the dungeons though, if you haven't done Mythic Plus yet, I would advise you to do a couple of Mythic 0 dungeons first, so that you can get comfortable with that difficulty. Mythic 0s are a good way to familiarize yourself with the mechanics without the additional mechanical pressures that the Mythic Plus system brings. Now that we have our key, we can make our way to the dungeon. Just like with Mythic 0, for Mythic Plus you have to run into the dungeon yourself. There is no automated queue to teleport you there. For the moment, I'll assume you'll already magically have a group. We'll get to the group finding in a little bit. Make sure everyone is inside, buffed and ready, and then you can put the key into the Font of Power to start the run. Let's go over the systems in Mythic Plus. There's a lot of details to it, so bear with me, but you'll find in practice it's very simple. Every season in WoW has a specific pool of dungeons that will be available to do in Mythic Plus. For example, in the War Within Season 1, the 8 Mythic Plus dungeons are the Stone Vault, City of Threads, the Dawnbreaker, Arakawa City of Echoes, Mists of Tyrna's Scythe, Siege of Borealis, the Necrotic Wake, and Grim Batol. Depending on when you watch this video, the current dungeon pool could be something very different. When you start a key, after a countdown to start the race, a timer will start counting down the time you have to complete the dungeon in. If you clear the dungeon within that time limit, you will be rewarded for successfully completing the key. Completing it within the timer is commonly referred to as timing the key. If you run out of time on the timer, you can still complete it for loot. And running out of time is commonly referred to as depleting the key. The time limit is commonly referred to as timing the key. If you run out of time on the timer, you can still complete it for loot. And running out of time is commonly referred to as depleting the key. The time limit differs per dungeon. It's determined by the developers on a dungeon by dungeon basis. Dungeon size, amount of bosses, trash, and roleplay dialogue are all taken into account to determine what a fair timer is for players to be challenged by. One other key detail for the timer is that when someone dies in a dungeon, it will take 5 seconds off of the clock. Each key has a difficulty number. The lowest difficulty you can have on a key is +2, and the highest you can have is as far as you can push it to. The difficulty number determines a couple of clock. Each key has a difficulty number. The lowest difficulty you can have on a key is +2, and the highest you can have is as far as you can push it to. The difficulty number determines a couple of things. The first is how much extra health and damage the trash mobs and bosses will do. The increase starts off quite low, increasing a little bit every time you do a key that's one higher than the last. As you go up further to the higher end of key difficulties, you'll see a bigger increase in difficulty by even going up one key level. Whenever you complete a dungeon run with your key, it will turn into a new key. It will randomly choose a dungeon from the current dungeon pool and the difficulty will change. If you time the key, it will go up in difficulty by at least 1 and maximum 3 levels. It depends on how fast you completed the key. And if you depleted the key, the difficulty will then go down by 1 level. Another core aspect of Mythic Plus is the affix system. Affixes are modifiers on your key that add additional challenges. Affixes will be added to your key at specific levels. What the affixes are and when they're added is something that can change on a season-to-season basis. Let's check out one example of an affix that could be on your key. Xal'atath's Bargain Voidbound will cause a Void Emissary to appear throughout the dungeon. It will buff your enemies, but if you kill it, you will get a buff instead. You'll find that not every affix is created equally. Some will influence what you do and what utility spells you might use more than others. You'll notice when the key has started that you have a percentage progress bar. In Mythic Plus, in addition to killing bosses, you also have to kill enough trash mobs to fill that bar to 100% to time the key. Different trash mobs will contribute different amounts of percentage to the bar. As you do higher difficulty keys, you'll find that players talk about which specific route in the dungeon you're going to take. A lot of Mythic Plus players will look to pull the absolute minimum and easiest amount of trash to get that bar full without fighting any other trash. Now, a scaling difficulty curve also means scaling loot rewards. The highest item level gear will come from the weekly vault if you do dungeons on +10. Anything higher than that is purely for bragging rights and score. Speaking of score, as you time dungeons you'll earn points for your seasonal rating. Currently, the highest amount of rating that will earn you anything other than bragging rights is an achievement at 2.5k rating. Since Dragonflight, every Mythic Plus season brings a brand new dungeon pool. These usually contain all expansion dungeons as well that have been reworked into dungeons that are up to the modern Mythic Plus standards. To help you get around to the dungeons on other continents, there will be one or more portals near Lindormi. If it's just one portal, it will lead you to a portal room with portals to all the relevant old world zones. If you're watching this in the War Within Season 1, these are the 4 portals that were available on the beta to get you into their respective zones. Mists of Tyrna's Scythe, Necrotic Wake, Siege of Borealis, and Grim Battle. There's 2 last things I want to cover. The first being grouping up. You can find or start your own group by just pugging through the LFG tool system. But if you're new to Mythic Plus and are nervous about toxicity, there are also Discord communities you can join. For EU players, there's the No Pressure Discord. And for US players, there's the WoW Made Easy Discord. Of course, do read the rules carefully when you join the Discord. Being an EU player myself, I can't say anything about WoW Made Easy, but I found No Pressure to be a great way to find non-toxic, low-pressure Mythic Plus groups. I eventually found my now regular Mythic Plus team through NOP. I'll leave a link to each community in the description. Lastly, and this is where I plug some of my content, when going into Mythic Plus I would highly recommend knowing something about the tactics. Whenever a new New Mythic Plus season starts with new dungeons. I bring out quick start guides for the boss mechanics in the dungeons, so be sure to check those out. And that's it. There are more things that will be added to your plate as you get into Mythic Plus, but these are the basics to get you going. If you have any remaining questions, feel free to post them in the comments and I'll see if I can answer them. And to the Mythic Plus veterans among us, is there anything I missed that you wish you had known about when you started playing Keys? Put your tips down in the comments. That's going to be it for me. Good luck. I hope you can find enjoyment in Mythic Plus like I do. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with others. I would very much appreciate it as it helps with the YouTube algorithm. You can also follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at twitter.com/bbmezzi.
Mythic Dungeons are the peak of dungeon content in World of Warcraft. This is where players show off the hard work they've put in to master their class and get incredible loot. However, don't let that intimidate you, as the Mythic system is easy to learn, yet hard to master. My name is Swag, your guide to the World of Warcraft, and today I'm here to help you get started in Mythic Dungeons. You'll learn everything you need to know about finding groups, keystones, affixes, timers, and more. Of course, if this is your first time here on my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with more WoW guides and news. For my viewers who are already familiar with Mythic Dungeons, can you take a second and comment below what advice you would want to give somebody who is about to begin Mythic Dungeons? So, what makes Mythic Dungeons so mythic? Well, if you're completely new to Dungeons altogether, you can check out another video on my channel called The Beginner's Guide to Dungeons. And in that video, we established that there are 3 types of dungeons: normal, heroic, and mythic. But really, that oversimplification is a bit misleading, as Mythic Dungeons will infinitely scale in difficulty until players can no longer accomplish them. This is where you will hear terms like +2, +3, and even +23. These scaled up dungeons are often referred to as Mythic Plus or Mythic Keys. Each one of those numbers indicates how scaled up that dungeon is. The higher the number, the higher the difficulty. A standard Mythic dungeon, often referred to as a Mythic 0 or an M0, is just like normal and heroic dungeons, except more difficult. Once you complete a Mythic dungeon, you will receive a keystone item in your bag. Every time you complete a Mythic dungeon, you will get another one of these keystones, and they are used to unlock more difficult versions of the Mythic dungeons. So theoretically, if you were to receive a keystone for Brackenhide Hollow at a +2 difficulty, you could unlock that difficulty level in Brackenhide Hollow. Then, upon completing the run, you will receive... Every time you complete a Mythic dungeon, you will get another one of these keystones, and they are used to unlock more difficult versions of the Mythic dungeons. So theoretically, if you were to receive a keystone for Brackenhide Hollow at a +2 difficulty, you could unlock that difficulty level in Brackenhide Hollow. Then, upon completing the run, you will receive a different keystone at a higher level for another dungeon. You cannot have multiple keystones at once, so once you've completed a dungeon, you will lose that keystone and receive another. It's worth noting at this point that going from a standard Mythic dungeon into any Mythic Plus dungeon will cause radical changes to how that dungeon operates. As mentioned before, Mythic Plus dungeons will scale in difficulty, which means enemies have more health and deal more damage. On top of that, every Mythic Plus dungeon has a timer. Your team will be racing against the clock to beat the timer and complete that dungeon. If they do so, they will be rewarded with a keystone at a higher level for another dungeon. If you fail the dungeon, you're racing against the clock to beat the timer and complete that dungeon. If they do so, they will be rewarded with with a keystone at a higher level for another dungeon. If you fail the dungeon, your keystone will be lowered by 1. However, if you complete it within the time, it will go up by 1. If you complete it within extra time, it'll go up by 2. And even more time on top of that, it will go up by 3. Doing so is often referred to as plus 2ing or 2-chesting, also plus 3ing or 3-chesting. Along with the timer, you will also need to kill a required amount of enemies. Now, you don't have to kill them all, just enough that the percent bar reaches 100. Bosses do not count on the meter, however, they are required in order to complete the dungeon. This will require groups to be creative and efficient, completing the meter at 100% without wasting time or pulling more enemies than they need to. The last major change for Mythic Plus dungeons is the introduction of affixes. Affixes add additional dangers into the dungeon for your group to face. These affixes change every week, and more are added to the dungeon at higher key levels. The first set of affixes start right away on plus 2 keys. There are only 2 possible options, and they rotate back and forth every week. These are called Tyrannical and Fortified. The Tyrannical affix causes bosses to have more health and deal more damage, while the Fortified affix last major change, complete the dungeon. This will require groups to be creative and efficient, completing the meter at 100% without wasting time. Time or pulling more enemies than they need to. The last major change for Mythic Plus dungeons is the introduction of affixes. Affixes add additional dangers into the dungeon for your group to face. These affixes change every week, and more are added to the dungeon at higher key levels. The first set of affixes start right away on plus 2 keys. There are only 2 possible options, and they rotate back and forth every week. These are called Tyrannical